christening. It was at Baker's Narrows.
That's what I remember, Baker's Narrows.
Yeah, and I went out and I did a pipe ceremony and a smudging ceremony. And we had lots of people there. That's when we could gather.
Yeah. Oh.
You know, we might get back to that, maybe not as many people, but we might get back to at least having small groups of people to gather. So I'm Margaret Head Steppan, that's my Christian name. My traditional name is Wapasku Musqueam Squale, and that translates to White Bear Woman. And that name was given to me some years ago when my mother passed away. And that name come to a traditional elder that give names. And when she gave me my name, I looked at her and I thought, I'm nowhere close to resembling a bear or even acting like a bear. Then I remembered I was sitting there while she was talking and I was listening to her, and she said to me, it's like, you know that mother bear that looks after her baby cubs, right? And if you come between her and her cubs, then look out, because the mother bear gets very angry. And I thought, yeah, that's who I am.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. So it took me a lot of years to try and figure out exactly what that name meant. I still haven't really figured it out, but I try very hard to walk a traditional road. Like this road has a lot to do with who I am spiritually, not who I am physically or emotionally or mentally. It's who am I spiritually, because when we talk about spirituality, it's the wholeness of us, who we are mentally, emotionally, physically, and we find out spiritually who we are. So a lot of stuff you see in the lodge here, I always wanted to have somewhat of a lodge that I could set up a place where I could come and connect with the spirit of the Creator and the spirit of that higher power, that higher being. And so I opened this up a few years ago, and it's been going pretty good. I love being in this space. This space is a good space for me. And what I do in the community is I try to reconnect our people. And when I say our people, the Indigenous people of the community, with non-Indigenous people. And I like a connector to bringing back some of the cultural ways, especially the ceremonies. We also have, through the Friendship Center, we also have the ceremonial grounds that we opened up about 5 or 6 years ago now. And we go there and we do sweats, and we ask for that healing to come to us through the water, through the elements, through the environment, you know, and just honoring those elements, the water, the trees, the grandfathers, like the oldest teachers, like the rocks, right? And teaching and passing that on to our children of the youth center and our own children and the children of the community. And that's where I do a lot of work in passing these teachings on to the younger people. Because it's the younger people that are going to pass it on to the next generation, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that you see sitting on this medicine wheel, we call it the medicine wheel, because we get a lot of medicine from it. A lot of teachings in each of the quadrants. When we're born, we come into this world we walk into, they say on the eastern direction, and as we walk into the center where the crater sits, our belief in the crater, we keep walking in and out. We just don't walk a circle. We walk in and out, and it forms like a petals of a flower. Each time we come back, we always reconnect with the crater in the center, and each of our aspects of wellness in the east direction, we begin with the emotional part of us, and we move into those 4 directions, right? So there's the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, and the mental aspects that we've got to take care of. They can't work singular. You gotta work on all 4 aspects when you're doing healing. And so when we do that healing, especially if we're thinking, if our thoughts are not good thoughts, then it's going to produce not good emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So that's the way it connects us, and we create a balance on this medicine wheel. And when we create that balance, everything goes good. Everything works out the way it's supposed to work out. And I know with COVID happening, I believe that once and for all, you know, in our culture, we believe that Mother Earth has to heal herself. So this was one of the ways that the Earth healed herself, was saying, hey, everyone, you know, if you're not taking care of yourself, I'm gonna, you know, just make things happen that you will learn to take care of yourself. And look at how many people in the world have learned to take care of themselves now. You know, they don't get so busy that they forget about themselves. And taking care of themselves is such an important factor in what we do. We can't help anybody if we're not physically, mentally, or emotionally, spiritually strong. So we got to come back to this wheel all the time. And when we do that, we're strong in the things that we do, and especially in our communities. Because I'm going to be gone one day, and when that time comes, I hope that the people that I've passed these messages, these teachings on to, will be able to keep passing them on. And we so need that today, because things aren't going to get any easier. You know, I remember the first week of isolating. I think it was the first 2 weeks, something like that. And I was sitting here one day in the lodge thinking, but am I the only person thinking this way? Like, am I the only person in this world? Because that's what it felt like. It felt like I was all alone. And nobody else was, you know, cared whether I was here or not. But then I started to think, well, what do I need to learn from this? What does Greater want me to learn? And in conclusion, I came to think that my deeper connection with myself and the people around me, that I don't need to go across the world, or those people that need me are right here in my home. And, you know, just spending time with them, getting to know them. So and I just use a lot of these tools to help me connect.
So what medicines do you have there?
We have the 4 medicines of the indigenous people. That's the tobacco for the east, and the sage for the south, and the sweetgrass for the, I got them a little bit mixed up, but cedars for the north. And when we use all these medicines, because those 4 medicines were given to us, indigenous people, to use. And with the knowledge of those 4 medicines, when you learn to use these 4 medicines, then you'll learn to use all medicines, is what was told to me. But first you gotta learn these first 4 medicines. Yeah.
And the beading,
I collect these little beads.
beautiful.
One was made by Christy
Oh,
for
Christy, I
the
have a
blueberry
jam.
jam. And then this poppy was made for me Remembrance Day, the medicine wheel. And this one, I just got this one.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And this was symbolic to the red dress.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, so where are all that exhibit, the red dress exhibit?
Oh, the exhibit we took down. We put it back up for this past week.
Okay.
And then we took it down again after 4 days.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure if I'm going to be in this space next year at that time, so I wanted it to be taken down. But I just collect little things. I like to remember different times, because this is different stages of my life, right? And right now I'm sitting in the northern quadrant where the elders sit. And I'm still trying to figure that out, and I don't think I'll ever completely figure it out by the end of my lifetime, but maybe I'll have a good idea of what it means to be an elder.
With another wonderful woman in our community, Judy Pettersen. I think everybody for sure knows Judy in our region, in our area, but for those that are watching from further away, Judy is an extremely accomplished businesswoman and author, as well as many other things. She sings in the choir, she's many other things.
On the B
She
team.
sings, she dances. And so we wanted to honor Judy and sort of just have a little bit of a chat with her about her life. And there's a few people we've been speaking with about going through their life and having different opportunities at different times in their life. And you've always done things at a very high level. There's no middle ground for Judy Pettersen.
I feel actually that I'm very middle ground, to be honest.
Really?
I do. I feel like, I'm in the middle of the altos, like I'm not somebody that nobody wants to stand by, but I'm not going to do any solos, okay? Not like Jacob. I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just see you as a person that's always gone for things not just a little bit. And so when you, with your business, the Baby Tracker, which is like still the best thing, around, it was, you had so many amazing experiences with that, learning.
Well, we had amazing
We
experiences
had
with
really,
that.
really, really fun experiences.
Yeah, Crystal and I worked together for
She was my boss.
at least 10 years, but it didn't really feel like that.
No,
We
it didn't
bossed
feel
each
like
other.
that at all.
That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a baby carrier, the baby tracker that I designed in back in the 80s when Michelle was born. And now she's having her baby, and she's like, oh, what if I have a baby like me? I said, well, then, everything comes around full circle. I'm giving you a baby tracker. You'll be fine.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
that was
so
fun.
then, how did you? I can't really remember how this morphed into your writing career and other things you're doing with that.
Well, I did a lot of writing for the business. Remember all the great ad campaigns we had?
Right.
We had this great ad campaign, I remember, in 2007. We called it 007, the Year of the Dads. And we had the poster series where we had the guy at the laundromat with his baby, and it was Does Laundry, Loves to Dance. I remember it was Chad Flanenden.
Right.
And then Susan Thompson's husband.
Yes.
The football picture with just their little baby girl and all these guys watching the Grey Cup, and it was like the only girl invited to boys' night out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we did a lot of that kind of thing, a lot
Great.
of playing around, and did a lot of creative writing for my site. So, and I always loved it,
Yeah.
even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Which is typical of most writers, I think.
Yeah.
So
then how did you go from there to actually writing a novel, a book?
Well, I started writing a blog for the Baby Trekker website, and then I had the chance to, UCN offered a 6-week writer's course. I think it was free, actually.
Yeah.
And Jacob Backinger, I think, was the prof. And we had so much fun. Our class was supposed to be 7 to 9. And by the last 3 classes, it was 7 to midnight. He would just stay as long as we wanted. And then we did another 6-week class about a year later. And and then I wrote my first book, which makes me laugh now because I wrote it watching TV. I don't recommend that.
But J.K. Rowling, I think she did it inside a train or something.
Well, that's a lot easier, that's, anyway, and, I've probably written about 10, but I've probably finished 8.
Wow.
So.
Well, just that journey of finding an editor, all.
Yeah, that's tricky.
All of
That's
those.
tricky, yeah.
And we live, Flin Flon is in a northern community, it's 800 kilometers north of Winnipeg. Like when you're in a smaller community, how do you find the people that you needed to connect with?
Well, I have some writer friends in town that I talk to, and my oldest daughter is a writer, and we actually edit for each other, and then when I need a professional editor, I just found some people recommended. I found a really awesome lady who was an editor for Random House, and she freelances, so I got her to edit my last few books, and and now I'm pitching one right now to some agents, and we'll see how that goes.
How do you find an agent?
You go on querytracker.com, which I never knew about for my first 5 books.
Well,
And then finally someone said, well, have you tried Query Tracker? And there's 1,000 agents on there.
wow.
And querying your book, figuring out what agent to send your book to, and, getting your letter right, describing your book. It's supposed to be a little bit like the back of the book, the blurb.
Oh my God, that's
And
a haiku.
then writing a synopsis of your 93,000 book that they want a page and a half.
Wow.
So what you do is you rip the heart out of your novel, and you say, here's just the facts, and it's extremely boring.
As you can hear from Judy, she's like, some of you may not remember the Irma Bombeck of 2021. You are so hilarious, and she has a blog that you've been, we guffaw through every single,
Yes.
article.
Well,
So
I do. When something happens in my life that strikes me as funny, I
I
write
think
a
everything
story about
strikes
it.
you as funny.
I think everything strikes me as funny. You're right. I've been in some fairly dire situations where a part of my brain was like, there is something funny about this.
I'm sure this is going to be in our next blog. There's going to be something about this coming up in the next couple
No, that would
months.
only happen if I fell off the chair and broke my leg.
Okay, well, let's
Jacob
not,
had to carry me out to the ambulance or something. That would be hard-worthy.
So, what advice would you give to other women that are interested? You have a very successful daughter who writes as well, and what advice would you give to people to follow their passions?
Find a group if you can. There's all kinds of writing courses online. Writer's Digest is a great magazine that has really helped me.
Writer's Digest?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a monthly, I think it's monthly. Maybe it's bi-monthly, I don't know.
Okay.
It takes me a while to read them, but anyway, it has great writing advice and, tips on pitching and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
Another thing they make you do is take your big novel and make one sentence that describes the whole book. Yeah.
Oh, that's impossible.
It's not.
Oh, really?
It's not. And it's the best thing you can do, actually. In fact, if you're smart and you're the kind of person who outlines, who I'm not, I'm working on it, but you would get your idea and write your sentence and then shoot the whole book toward that.
Wow.
And then you don't kind of, fall off the edge and go in the wrong direction. So
there was this one presentation I ended up doing it at the Banff Center for the Art Summit, and it was this thing called Pachaka Cha, where you had 20 seconds per slide where you had to describe and there were 20 of these 20-second slides. And you know, it was, I think, one of the hardest things I ever did, because you know, you want to be effusive to explain, you know, whatever you're talking about, and then when you have to get it down to just this really finite format,
Yes.
it must be hard to do that. Like,
Well, I mean, it gets easier, you know, each time you do it. And I think you start to understand the writing process better. You know what surprises me, and I actually, with the master class, which we both watched, you know, who's the author that wrote, you know, Fudge, and she's a children's author, and Super Fudge, and Judy Bloom. Yeah, I watched her master class, and I love this that she said, because she said, I don't always get the theme of my own book. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a tough thing for me, even though I loved English class and was pretty good at it. I struggled with that. I was like, I don't know, love?
Yeah. Where do you want it to be?
What is it? So now I'm getting to understand as I'm writing.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to let the story unfold and the characters unfold, and then you learn in a way from them. This is my process. You learn from them what they're trying to say, what they want to happen, and sometimes my characters take over a little bit. I'm like, well, that's not how it ends. And they're like, well, yes, it is. I don't like him. I'm not going to end up with him. I don't care what you say. I don't care that you're the boss. You're not the boss.
You know, I hear about this, and there's something about it I just love so much about how creativity, imagination can just do its own thing with writers.
Mm-hmm.
With the Arts Council, I look at the different art sectors, and my first experience was realizing how we're connected in our passion for creativity and art, but how each group is kind of different. And I remember the first time we were trying to do a visual art presentation outside of our performing arts, whatever was going to be performing that year, and I went to our local artists and I said, okay, do you want to create an exhibit outside? And they said, yeah, this is great. And as performing artists, you everything's in the moment. You play that note and it disappears forever. You know, it just, you prep to go to it, but then it goes. And when I was speaking with these visual artists, I was saying, okay, I have tulle, I have lights, I have a stand for your art. What do you need? And they were looking at the back of the auditorium, and they were saying, this looks like a cave. I went, oh God. And I'm looking at I was like, the show's in 2 hours, you know. And then when we did something with the Jeanette Lines and had the writers all together.
That was wonderful.
It
was wonderful.
It was, but you're a different group. You're very, very, you work intensely on your own. And so I found it really interesting trying to figure out what you as a group of writers would want.
I don't know if we knew what we wanted at that
I don't
point.
know.
It was
very-
perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah,
that was a really wonderful.
I loved watching this group.
Yeah, and she was so lovely and kind and just.
Yeah. Well,
it was great.
that's all of you as well. So what's next? Like, do you think?
Well, as I said, I actually wrote a romance novel, which usually I write a YA or I write something about something dystopian, but I wrote and I have this fictional town called Cranberry Lake in Ontario, but it's really Flin Flon.
Okay.
And so my last 3 books are there, you know. So it's called Franny's Boarding House for Rednecks.
Okay.
And it's just a story about a widow who's younger than me, who husband comes back from the dead to help her find someone to love. And not in a creepy way, though.
No.
Not in a, you know, like skin and bones and hanging over the bed. Not like that. I like to use humor in my writing. One book I didn't, Refuge City, because it was about kind of not quite the end of the world, but it was a dystopian YA, so that didn't have much humor in it.
Yes. Well, is it a little bit like The Road, or the
not that dark?
Yeah,
no,
that
things are going to be okay, but
that's
they're not okay for a while.
Because
The Road, there's no
I'm
happy
fearful
ending.
of scary books.
I love that book though. That is that is a lesson in writing.
That
right
was
there.
just a beautiful. We're part of the #1
Ladies
Book Club in Flin Flon. And I was looking at the list of books we've read over the years. It's like 40.
Oh no, way more than that.
Way more than that.
Way more than that.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
close
just
to
been
100.
wonderful, because I'm really not fiction reader, but I've enjoyed every single one of these books. And so I guess I am, because I've read 100, I think you said over 100 fiction books. I'm now a fiction
Well,
reader.
some of them are nonfiction, but
Yeah, some of them are.
your picks
The ones I
usually.
choose. But that's one of the things I love about literature and reading is that it can really, maybe, I guess each art does it in a different way, but it can open your mind in totally different ways. Like the last book we were reading, the Midnight Library.
Yes.
It's just all these different ways of approaching life.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting. Did your mind get just overwhelmed with all your thoughts?
My mind doesn't get overwhelmed with all my thoughts. It gets overwhelmed with all my documents because you have your first draft and then your second draft and then you have your pitch letters and then you have, some agents want 10 pages, some want 3 chapters, so you have all these documents in your file. And it gets to be a lot. And so trying to keep track of everything. And then suddenly you've made some changes to your novel and you realize they want 3 chapters, but that's the old 3 chapters, and then you've got to find the new 3 chapters, first 3 chapters.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and you know me.
Yeah, I do.
So I get a little overwhelmed by that, but I actually love living in another world while I'm writing a book. I love that. I really love that.
How long does it take for you to do the first draft? Trying to get that whole idea out.
Yeah. I would say this time it was the shortest. It was one of my longer books, and it was the shortest time. And I would say I probably wrote my first draft in about 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, because it was about a woman who was not really wanting to move on from her husband, I was able to tap into the fact that I'm a widow and how I feel.
Okay.
And so after a while, I realized I was writing and not finishing the book because I didn't want to leave the world. And so I was just writing away, and finally my daughter had a little talk, and she says, "Look, Mom, shut it down. Slap that ending on." And she knows me. She says, "And I bet you've cooked a lot of dinners in that book." So I had to go back and okay, just stop cooking so much. I actually wrote a blog about that because she'd say, "You can't have these young people living in this world, this dystopian world where they're running for their lives, and they stop to cook. Who does that?"
In a dystopian
I
life.
would.
Yeah.
I would always stop for dinner. So.
Oh, Judy.
Oh,
Well, Judy, we just admire you, and we just appreciate everything you're doing in our community and within the art world. And we thank you for being here so we can celebrate this.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Judy Pettersen.
It's been fun.
Yeah, Flin Flon, Manitoba's one of our many writers.
Oh, this community is amazing.
I know. There's lots of everything.
Lots of everything.
One of our many writers and authors, and thank you for being part of International Women's Week.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hi, my name is Sophia Charuk, and I'm the secretary for the Women's Resource Center Board. And I'm here with Crystal Kolt, the director for the Flin Flon Arts Council. How are you doing today, Crystal?
I'm great. Cold day again, but we're not quite March yet.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
But we wanted to celebrate you for International Women's
thank
Week,
you.
and really we want to ask you sort of what is your inspiration being such a driving force in the community?
Oh my gosh. Well, regarding arts and culture, it's been a part of my life. It's my earliest memory. My dad was a lawyer, but his passion was all things arts. Like when he wanted to learn Japanese, he went to Japanese classes. When he would stuff us all in the car and we would go to some farmyard someplace, and he would paint. And then he was a huge lover of all things Chopin. When the Manitoba Opera Association came to Manitoba, at the very beginning, he was part of that and joined as a super, which meant, that he might have helped carry a tenor across the stage with a rickshaw or whatever. But he was involved with that. And when I was going to high school, I would have to catch the bus. I would go to the concert hall and wait for him to have his rehearsals. And it was there that I realized that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Because it was there that I was able to be behind the fabulous Irving Gutman, who was the director at the time, and just to see that whether you were a super in an opera or you were the superstar in the opera, the diva, that you still had to be at all those rehearsals and every role was as important. And so it started make me think that there were things that we all can do at a high level if you want to do it. And another person I had a good chat with was a very, very like a famous prima donna when my husband Mark was with the Royal Winnipeg Ballet by the name of Evelyn Hart. And I remember her and I sitting there chatting while we were watching the dancers rehearsing, and just her commenting on her love of performing for community and small community. This was decade before I knew I would be living in a smaller community, and it sort of occurred to me that people of high up in quality in their art can have this desire to really want to perform everywhere. It could be the grandest concert hall or it could be the smallest town. And so anyways, that sort of propelled me to keep going forward and just to see where I could go. And I love creating. I'm curious to see what can happen if you just try. You know, if it fails, that's okay. I'm okay with failure as long as I tried. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's really important what you say about failure and being okay with it. What are some challenges that you faced, and how do you learn to get excited about failure?
Yeah. My challenges, I find, is when there's a really, really large project, and of course you don't know the ultimate outcome. And if you have a large group of people or anybody sort of following you, sort of thinking that you absolutely know what that outcome is, I find that a really big burden. Like I find that I worry about it. I know the first time we performed in Carnegie Hall, somebody said, how do you know it's not a scam? And I went, oh no. How do I know that? I never thought of that. I just sort of thought that it was going to be good. And it was an amazing experience. But whenever I take on these big projects, I find that is a challenge. But then I also feel that if you can imagine, I call them dots, if you can imagine as many dots as you can from where you are now to getting to the end location, you can fill in the other dots along the way. But then it kind of calms me down and just think, well, I could always stop the project. Like if something happens and this is not, I'm not going to do anything crazy, lose people's faith or trust or money or whatever the case might be. So I just, I kind of just work through it, and then I kind of know at this point in my life what my panic levels are, and I just know that I just need to just let it chill a little bit, just wait a little bit and see, just calm down and see where it goes.
Yeah, that's super important to be able to sort of take a step back and look at everything and say, okay, we know it's possible, we know it's realistic.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You have such an amazing sense of teamwork. How did you foster that, and how? For me personally, you inspire that in me. So it's really great to watch. And how is it that you keep up with yourself like that?
Well, I'm inspired by you and by everybody, because like we all only have a certain amount of knowledge and information and energy and ability, but when you combine it, it's like those children's stories where one person helps another person, helps a third person, a fourth, and all of a sudden everybody's carrying that table across the room. You possibly can, as we've known here, try to carry a big heavy table by yourself, dragging it. But if you believe that there might be 3 other people that might have the ability to be able to help you do that, then all of a sudden it becomes this amazing thing. And if you allow people to shine, like if you give people both the dignity and the encouragement and the power to do the things that they feel that they can do. It may not be exactly the way you think it should be. It may not be exactly the way you envisioned it. Most times it's a lot better than you could possibly ever have thought. But you have to you have to empower them, and I enjoy that. Like I enjoy just watching all of a sudden people doing something that they've done for the first time from scratch, and they're looking at their creation thinking, huh.
So one thing that you are amazing at is in absolutely inspiring people and actually giving them that room to thrive and grow on their own. But with that being said, even in my experience, there are more people that aren't like that. What are your experiences with people that aren't as open and perceptive, and how do you overcome that sort of challenge?
Yeah, it happens often in life that you have people that maybe they don't see the vision, or maybe they're very fearful of the challenge, or maybe that they just feel that this is something that we're moving too quickly for whatever reason. So I'm confessing it here. I kind of play a little bit of a trick with myself, a little bit. I just really do a lot of homework as much as I can, just to see what challenges they are, and what just seems to be reasonable. Like if I think of an Arts Council project, I'm not going to jump into anything without feeling like I have those dots I was talking about before, things lined up. Like, is there an opportunity to get funding for it? You know, if we're going to be going to New York to perform at Carnegie Hall, are there enough people that are interested in doing that? Is that there are people wanting to make that investment, financial investment, the time investment? And then I also look at the long range forecast, like how long will it take us to do this? So I need 1.5 years to do a musical theater. So going from March and expecting to do a musical theater production 2 months later, I just know that's, if somebody's saying that's impossible, I have to agree. It's just not, it's maybe possible, but it's just really not something that I would push back at. But whenever somebody gives me criticisms, I really appreciate it, because I'm not all-seeing, and I can make as many mistakes as everybody else can make mistakes. And so you have to be able to accept that as well, and I do. Anyways, I really appreciate it. I find it a lot easier than people that are really, really, really quiet, and you don't know that there's something around the corner that's going to be really unpleasant. I would rather just let me know, and then we'll figure it out, or we can stop, or we can change, or whatever the case. Because I find whenever anybody's facing or presenting me with a criticism or a challenge, it's usually based on something real. And it's usually based on something I haven't even heard about, or I haven't thought about. I've been going too quickly, or whatever the case might be, and that's really, really important information for me to have, and absolutely, it's critical that it be listened to, given its due diligence, and then let them help me fix it.
Absolutely, but that's wonderful to have that constant feedback and that back and forth. It's so important to foster that sense of community, and that everybody's playing a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah,
that's super fascinating. How do you're such a Wonder Woman, the way you jump back and forth from tasks, and all like the amazing abilities that you bring forth to the table in order to pull off the big thing that is the Flin Flon Arts Council. How do you fit that into your busy life? How do you make it work?
Well, I'm fortunate now that that my kids are grown and they're having their fabulous lives on their own. So it's just Mark and I. So I've been able to stretch the balloon even more. But when I was mom with kids at home and everything else, I was fortunate enough to have a position with the Arts Council, which was really flexible. And it is a part-time job, which was, I could expand it to whatever I wanted it to be. which is something I love the adventure of that. When I was a kid, like in junior high, I remember one of the things I made a presentation about was trying to do, by the end of my life, having done something that would really feed a community in some way. And I didn't really know what that would be. But I just know even back then it was something I really wanted to use my life to really in service, to making a better community. And then not knowing I was coming up to a northern community, then all of a sudden as I was looking around in northern Canada, I realized there was so much potential. I just felt like we are pioneers here in the north, and which means that there's blue sky really to do whatever is needed to make our beautiful country even better. And so that's kind of what, I don't know, did I answer that question?
I think you absolutely did. It's like, it seems like your passion's really your driving force, and it's, you know, you're such an honest soul, you know, and that's such a beautiful thing to see, the honesty and then the passion of your work. And I think that that's so beautiful to see how it drives you, and it is making a difference in the community.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I feel so honored to have this opportunity to be able to interview you and interact with you and to get to know you at a deeper level. So thank you for allowing me to do
it's been
that.
a pleasure. Thank you for including me in this. This is wonderful.
Well, absolutely. And we want to thank everybody at home for watching and joining us for International Women's Week.
So we're here with the fabulous Karen Clark. We're celebrating her for International Women's Week. Karen has been the driver, the founder, with several other people from Norva. I think you had a group of about 5 or 6 at the very, very beginning, 10 years ago.
About 23 sat down at the table.
23, but Karen was there at the very, very beginning. And we're in this beautiful space called Norva Center. And we're going to talk about that, but we really want to talk about Karen as an artist in our community of Flin Flon, Manitoba, and her journey, and any words of wisdom you want to share. So how did this, I've heard a little bit about you remember you telling me about your mom and being an artist, and then I remember when I came to town 25 years ago, I guess it was about, you'll have to tell us when you had a time as a woman to get back into your art.
Yeah, I guess maybe it was when I felt I had a little more free time, and I think that's the case for a lot of women. They need to carve out that time. And I remember my mother saying to me, and I was a teenager, and she said to me, you know, Karen, you have to be selfish to be an artist. And I think she was trying to explain to me that, you know, she was taking time away from the family to do what she was doing. But for me, that was normal, and nobody needed to explain it. It was just the way it was, as far as I was concerned. It was just what I understood mothers to do. Yeah. And so she didn't have to explain to me. No. But I remember her saying that to me, and then I remember feeling guilty also as a mother, a family member, and wife, and having a job, and feeling guilty for spending time on my art. And that being said, though, I'm a healthier person for having spent that time. I think it builds, it recreates, it affirms you as a living human being. It's important to make, to produce, to create things that you want to make, produce, and create. Yeah. So, and that, I think, is a truism for Flin Flon. It's something that we all know about, and whether we're making a really cool ice shack out on Athapap, or we're making music next door here at Johnny's Social Club, or singing in the choir, or directing the choir, or whatever direction we take, or coaching a team, and creating plays that are going to take on the opposition. It's all creative. And that's just really important to me.
Yeah. You know, I feel exactly the same way when it comes to the whole philosophy with culture days. I felt exactly the same way that, you know, visual art, we designed your puck and your jersey. Welcome to our team. You know, we are everything has to do with arts and culture somehow, some way,
Yep.
or whatever. And so it's just this wonderful thing. I think with being a woman and trying to include all of it into your life. We've spoken this with Joanna Ledoux as a dietitian and other artists. Every sector, women are saying that was sort of an important part of their life, and feeling that it was important to show their daughters that you can do this. You know, you can fit it all in your life. It might be messy, but you can. Yeah. So how have you been able to manage it with your family and your daughter and your grandchildren?
Well, there's lots of time maybe stolen away for art, pursuing art, and for creating and the kind of thinking that you do. I mean, there's probably a lot of that time, and I thank my family for being patient with me and giving me that freedom.
Yeah.
The other thing I find, in Flin Flon is there's this a generosity of spirit between the arts here. Like whether you're a musician or a performing artist, or you're a painter or a visual artist, there's a support network. There's none of this us and them kind of thing. And it's all like we're all in this together. And I think people recognize that whatever's good for one art group is good for everybody. And we all build.
Yep.
And I can't imagine what this place would be like without the support. The support and help of all the arts groups in town. Like and I hope that we're able to support back, like to make the same thing happen.
You always do.
I think that's a big deal, but it also on a personal level, people giving of themselves to me so that I could learn and become better at what I do, and support and encourage me. I really feel duty bound to try to do the same.
Yeah.
In whatever way I can, and I hope that I have gained so much from so many people. And if I started to list them off, we'd be here for another hour. Easily. Yeah.
I wonder if that's one of the benefits of a small community too, because everything is 5 minutes away. So you can come to Norva to do a show or to see an art show after your kids' basketball, or sneak away during the afternoon to be able to attend whatever. I think it's a really huge advantage that we have.
Oh, yeah, I agree. We're doing this interview at 4:00. I came from my job. I came to Norva early. I set up my boutique demonstration that I'm working on. I worked on that right because I had 2 minutes of travel time.
See?
So I could totally do that, and I think being close together is good.
We're so lucky. I think if I'm remember being in a larger center, it would take you 20 minutes or half an hour just to get some milk. You know?
Yeah. No, we're blessed, absolutely.
And then to have the richness of all the different arts. You're right. We're lucky. I remember one of the first times I met you, which was it's kind of inspired me, was when we were having the very first meet and greet exhibit.
Oh, right. Oh, right. For sure.
Yeah, it was you, Sarah Trevor, and Elaine Angelski, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was the first time I think I'd heard about you doing batik.
Sure.
You're famous for your batiks. And as a performing artist, we're so in the moment. Like you play that note and it's gone, and so you spend all this time getting to that, and it's gone. And I remember the Arts Council, we decided, we want to be able to have some kind of gallery. This was way before the Norva Center, and see if we can do this, help to promote that. And I got you three gals together, and I said, okay, I have tulle, I have lights, I have podiums. And I remember, I think it was Elaine looked or it was maybe Sarah, and looked underneath the raised seating and says, oh, that looks like a cave. And I think it was 2 or 3 years before, 3 hours before the show. And I was starting to panic, like, oh, okay, I have lights, I have tulle, and then finally they started talking about what you guys could do. And I thought, okay, I think I just need to leave. And when I came back, it was this magical world that was created. Elaine was in the cave, and you and I don't know where you found within an hour and a half all the things you guys needed to find.
Oh yeah,
and it was
right,
it was beautiful. And I remember thinking that each art form is so distinct at the same time, and that I found it really enriched me to experience that, because I just sort of, okay, practice, let's perform, next one, type thing.
Yeah.
And then I was speaking with Judy Pettersen about this, that the writers are different yet again in terms of their almost their love of solitude and creation.
Yeah, their craft is quite different.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So how has Norva, what changes have you seen over 10 years?
We're going into year 11, and one of the things I've noticed over that time is the growth amongst the artists that are affiliated or associated with the center. There's a group of about 6 of them right now pursuing a mentorship with an artist. We're waiting to see if the funding will come through on that. And then there's the Safe at Home grant that we got, and the programming that we're able to churn out. It's amazing, really, what we're able to do. And this is a small little place, but Mike Spencer, the last month has been just horrendous for the workload that he's had to take on. But the difference, I think, over the years is just the depth and the change in the kind of programming that we can offer the community. And I always felt that the stronger your artists are, the more capable, the more confident they are about giving to the community. Yeah. But you have to support that growth of the artists. You can't just let them be all by themselves in a kitchen or in a garage. You have to give them an opportunity to learn from one another, to experience new art forms, to have conversations about art. And that's the point, I guess, of having a hub or a place like this where people can come and expect to have those kind of conversations. Yeah. So I'm very very pleased that those changes have occurred, and the place is flexible. Like, we're resilient. I mean, COVID comes and slaps you in the face and says, no, you have to close, you're a gallery. Yeah. So we're closed. And we had a way of handling that where, one artist could come in at a time and work in the front, and one could be back here. And, we dragged ourselves through and I guess we're still in red. So, but now we're up to 15 for capacity. I don't know, like any other sort of group, and, just trying to find a way to do the same things we've been doing. So digital has, that was something that we had as a program, our programming committee had already kind of been taking on, and it got fast-tracked. Yeah. With COVID coming, well then fine. So we had to purchase some equipment and dovetail with some of the purchases that you guys have made at the Arts Council. And of course, we've got some really knowledgeable young people around to work with, and they've got lots of energy, and they're like, oh man, when they get together and start talking all this language, I have no idea what they're talking about. It's just great, because the energy, it just feeds you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So those are those are things that I've seen really change. The quality of the artists that come to Flin Flon, the visual artists that we have, has been amazing,
For sure.
dramatic. You know, Canadian icon like Diana Thornycroft.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
So we got her to come, and then she did a mentorship,
Yeah.
and then her husband came,
Yeah.
and then, like, you know, he's an artist in his own right, Michael Boss, and and they're still connected with us.
Yeah.
So people come here for Culture Days.
Yeah.
They enjoy themselves so much. They get such a welcome. They paint in that Wild Rice collaboration, and they go back to wherever. And
I'm forever grateful for you for doing that. For me, we have this, as part of a Culture Days event, this evening where there's music happening on stage, and it's packed to the rafters. And the visual artists paint a scene that they predetermined in advance, and then artists, actually even members of the community, I see kids out there painting or invited to be part of it, and it's like magical. As much as I love watching the stage, I'm transfixed to what's happening on the palette. It's like, yellow, I never thought of yellow. You know, it's just the best.
you know, it's really interesting to hear somebody talk about watching that.
Yeah.
Because when you're in it, you don't think about the audience really at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And there was one story, this girl came up to me at the end and she said, "Oh my God, I can't believe that worked out." I said, "Well, why?" And she said, "Well, you and I think it was Ron Watt, we were painting these little wavelets up in the corner.
Yeah.
And this one big tall guy took a great big brush and went like this with the color. And I guess in the back they were yelling. They were yelling, "He's drunk! Get him out of there!" Anyway, it was absolutely the right thing to do. Because these little wavelets were not going to read at all. You needed a big, broad stroke. So we had just stood back and gone,
Okay.
you know, and kind of stood back. But then to hear from the audience's point of view is so funny.
It's magic. It's absolutely magic. Oh, it's just the best. You know, I don't know if there's anything else you want to share about what you want, you know, next. People can find more about Norva at norvacenter.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah, our website's presently under construction, but you can still go there and check out some of the art. Facebook page is quite active, and Instagram. There's probably not as much work on it as the Facebook. I think that's a little heavier usage there. We have Safe at Home kits coming out, and Norva TV, which is hilarious. Norva TV. It looks like it belongs. Like, you know, it's like seeing CBC logo. It looks right.
Really?
It's so funny. Norva TV. Well, it's just the shape of the letters, right? TV, and Norva's got a V in it, and it just kind of, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you know, always something happening.
Well, thank you,
Always
Crystal.
workshops. Well, thank you. So this is Karen Clark from the Norva Center, and we were celebrating her for International Women's Week. And have a great evening.